Hi guys, I'm ExactChaos and welcome back to another episode of Workers and Resources, and this is the How to Play series. So we're playing How to Play Workers and Resources. So please do leave your comments down below. I've been enjoying your comments thus far in terms of what we are doing. So in the last episode, we started planning it out, right? So we did the strategic planning for what this kind of area could look like. In the meantime, what I have done in between episodes, I've just laid out some of the road network that we talked about and that we kind of did the strategic planning for. Not a lot, but some of it. So we've got our access from the border post over here into a bit of a highway network, a primary arterial highway network. And I see a lot of people that don't actually do proper road networks. So there's two reasons why I think you should be doing it and why I do it. And I do it kind of like this with the roundabouts in there, just because the roundabout seems to work a little bit easier from a traffic perspective. It also gives us the ability to potentially grade separate something in the future with a little bit more room here. Now, we won't necessarily do that in a town, but anyway, that's the gist of it. It gives you, beyond the traffic benefits of a reasonable road network, a sizable road network, it gives your town and your nation a little bit of structure, right? So now at least you know this road is your primary road. So anything else you're building here to connect to various things that you're going to build. So we've got, I think we've got power and steel, power, heating and steel over here. This will need a road network, right? There'll be roads that goes to this, okay? But our primary road network is not going to give anything direct access. We're going to have access roads off of this. And we will continue our road network as we plan. There's maybe some oil refinery over here and the likes. But what are we going to do in this episode? So we're going to look at, now that we've got our strategic planning underway and we've got the first pieces of our road network. And you can do this in realistic mode. I've obviously got unlimited money and I've spent rubles to build this, kind of insta-build it. But you can lay it out with mud roads and slowly build it in. But the important thing is to make sure you're planning it out. So what are we going to do in this episode? So now that we've got the strategic planning in place, now we need to look at our first and starter town. So we want it fairly close to the border, as we've discussed in previously. And now we've got this primary road network. We suggested this area here for our town. So let's see what we can do. Again, what I tend to do is I tend to plan it out with the mud roads, and then we go from there. So let's remove some of these things out of our way because we've now safeguarded. We've got the road here. We do need to remember that we need rail as well, and maybe that corridor is the rail corridor. Can't remember what we said actually, but anyway, so we've now that we've got this primary road network in place here, we don't need those safeguards anymore. So now we can start looking at what our first town looks like, and we have a number of different things that we will need in our town, but so we've got rail coming in here, and maybe one of the things that we can do is let's go and have a bit of a look at our rail network, right? This isn't going to build it straight away, is it? I think it is. Okay, so maybe what we need to do then instead is let's go with active construction. Build from resources. Let's go with that. So we'll give ourselves a little bit of room here, and at the same time we'll double up the track. Though we need is a bit of extra room there. So let's just see what this looks like. So we want a reasonable level of rail connectivity through here without, I guess, a little something like this. So let's do that. At the same time, we'll double up, get our second line in place, and then maybe what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of this. So let's do that. We'll build it with rubles. So that's our rail network as a starting point. Now, the first thing I do in any town is have a bit of a look at what we're going to do at the center. The center is typically public transport. So let's grab ourselves a train station, maybe not a super large train station, but a reasonably sized train station. This is too big. I don't like that at all. Maybe more kind of something like this might be. Oh, hang on, that's the wrong wrong one. Something like this might be good. Something like that. Something like, where did I find? I swear I had some other ones. So if we go with a rail station, I do like to give ourselves at least 4 platforms. Rail station, right? Station, rail, platform. Yeah, this stuff. So I like some of these. Let's grab ourselves that one. We'll put that one in place as well. We'll put that one over there. We'll put some of these in there. And for good measure, we'll grab some of these guys also. Right, so we've got a few different options that we can look at. So if we go back in here, this is modded stuff, by the way. It's not going to be a pure vanilla platform. This is a terminus station, so we're not going to use that. Maybe something like this instead. So let's pause the game while this is happening. Yeah, so I like this is a reasonable size. So where is going to be the center of town? So we don't want to get too close to the oil and too close to that. So I think center of town could be right around here. I'm not going to tie in those networks just yet, so we'll leave a little bit of room here. So let's do it right in the center of town. And now from this particular point, I think let's quickly bring in the rail. That's one of the important things we do as a starting point. So I think we're going to run it pretty straight like that. Actually, let's run it pretty straight from this one here. Okay, so we'll try and tie in directly with that. And at the same time, what we'll do is we will try and connect these. So if we're saying, if we do something like that, yeah, I like that. Let's get the snapping back on. So we can tie these together and do something like that. So I think that's a reasonable way of doing it. What we could also do, obviously we're going to want to build a road across here. Similarly, we're going to want to do the same thing on this side. So this time around, I might do it on that side. Okay, so we'll run it like so. All the way around like that. And now we will look at just making sure we tie it in like this. So that's pretty reasonable. It's not going to be massively large trains that can be accommodated there, but it should be okay. What I also like to do when we've got this kind of setup is we just allow for the turnaround, and I'm going to do that a little bit set back so that we have room for our roads to cross. So I will go ahead and pay for that construction. At the same time, we will then see about tying some stuff in here. So again, try and look at your contours. Of course, we can provide ourselves a little bit of room. Is that going to be it? So let's do a little bit of that. Give ourselves a little bit of a turn in here, and we'll go hug it there and go back all the way, and we will pay for that as well. So now this is kind of this is the center of town, right? So we have that in place. We will pay for this building as well, so we can have a bit of a look at that. Now, what we also need to do is give ourselves a bit of a road network, right? So, and one thing that I kind of like a little bit more about, so let's give ourselves a network like this. So we're getting ourselves a little bit of a grid pattern to work with. Can we cross it something like this? Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And now we can also lure these little one-way pieces, right? I like tying them into the roundabout now that we've got the tiny little one-way piece. So now that just looks a bit nicer. So yeah, something like that. Something like that. Yeah, that's completely reasonable. So let's pay for those, get them built, and that's fine. Now, so that's the starting point there. We'll need some more roads beyond that. So let's run a little bit of a parallel road over here. Now, I like to not necessarily go crazy with our block sizes. I want fairly large blocks. So I'll do a little something like that, because a lot of our roads don't actually need, or a lot of our buildings don't actually need road access. So I think this kind of setup here is going to be completely good enough for our kind of primary road network. Now, we will do, I think, something very similar up on this side. So we've got a little bit of mountainous terrain to deal with. So let's get a bit of a turn here. So some little bit of room and run another little road, maybe like so, slightly not straight, so that we've got a little bit more interest. So this is why I don't like doing the kind of complete, I don't like them being full grids, or they're grids, but they're not kind of 90-degree angles, right? Because it gives us a lot more interest in this area. So I'll try and make it at least 90 degrees off of roundabouts, and then what we'll do is we'll try something like this, and we can probably run that one a bit straight up like that as well, have a little bit more interest there, and we'll see about that. So let's quickly do the little tie-in points here. We'll bring them back a little bit. We'll do something like that. We'll do something like that. I like it. I like it a lot. This is it's a fairly neat little way of doing it. So let's go ahead and buy those. Okay, so this is our road network, guys. So this is our starting road network. Now we've got a fairly central area here. Now what you want in your immediate central area, and it's also a good idea to do a little bit of a bus stop as well. So let's quickly grab a bus station of sorts, maybe something like this guy. So we'll do this one a little bit off center from this, because we want to pick up people that's not necessarily going to be let's do this. So let's place the bus station somewhere over there, right? So I like doing a bit of a bus station as well. So what I typically then do is I make a start of the town in between these two, so that we have access to buses straight away, because initially you're probably going to use buses more than anything else. So that's now our kind of primary transport infrastructure. Let's quickly go and build this road as well. Now, what do you need? So there's the first thing you want is a shop, right? We want a shop. So let's have a look. What is a reasonable shop? And I always look for a shop with at least two access points, what is it called? 2 factory connections, right? Even this guy doesn't have 2 factory connections. So who has 2 factory connections? This one has. So we'll grab that. That's a small store. This is a small shopping center. So we'll just grab a small shopping center. We will create it around about here. We could also do it on the other side. I think on the other side of the road is probably a good idea. So we'll do our shop here. And then what you want to do always, and I can't kind of emphasize this enough. Always make sure you have both the meat and the other items via a storage system, right? So have an extra storage for your meat and your other items, clothing and the like. So let's do one of them over there. The other one needs to be the meat storage. So we'll do this one. How will we do this one? If we flip it around, I think something like this is probably okay. And I also like to do the road cargo station, right? But we need something fairly small here. So what I'll do is I will grab the road cargo station like this. And maybe what we can also do in this area is we can do our very first petrol station, right? So a gas station. If we grab just a gas station, maybe a nice big one for vehicles, We'll do the gas station in here as well. And I am pretty keen to just have these connect directly off of our main road. So if we do that as our connection off the main road, so maybe something like that and something like that. So now all of this can be accessed from the main road. When people come in, they can they go around there and get access to it. Pretty cool, huh? So we'll do that. These need construction access only, really. So we'll get some access over there. Similarly, yeah, we might just get dual accesses in this area. We'll do something like this, get an access there, and we'll get an access over here as well. So I almost never. So this is maybe where you need access to vehicles, a lot of vehicles. Might be a good idea, right? I mean, when you need direct access for vehicles, where you just need construction access and some other bits and pieces, probably do your network from the external, from the smaller streets, not from your main network. For gas stations, this is okay. This might become a problem in the future if this is really busy, but I guess this really won't be that busy. Okay, we can, I think, go ahead and tie that in. Now, you will also see that there's plenty of area in between here because we need to fit a lot of stuff in here. We need to fit utilities, we need to fit waste, we need to fit paths for our people in here as well. Okay, so that's our first point there. The other things that they'll need is things like hospitals and the like, so we'll put that a little bit set back from this area. So now the next thing we want to do is let's lay out a few buildings, right? So let's grab something fairly sizable. Maybe something like these prefabs over here, right? So we'll give ourselves a little bit of. I hate doing them square with the road. So what we'll do, we'll give them a little bit of an angle, and I try to do them in clusters so that it looks a little bit more interesting, right? And you kind of offset them a little bit. So something like this, maybe. I like that idea. Okay, so if we do that, now what I can do is I can turn it and even run it a little bit more. Let's just see about getting them fairly square. I like getting these clusters properly set out. So what we'll do is we'll give ourselves a little bit of room in between here. We'll get something a little bit smaller to go in there. And maybe what we'll do is we'll get one more. We'll do something like this, right? Okay, so do we have something that's a little bit smaller but in the same kind of design? And I think the answer is yes, we've got these guys. So now we can do a few things to kind of sort out our edges, but I guess we don't really need to. I'll do a little bit here and a little bit there. And maybe we'll even get one more of these big guys over here. Now we do need to be a little bit careful so we don't go too crazy with this. But let's do maybe something like this. So it's fairly square in terms of our layout. So there we go. That's our very first cluster. Now, the next most important thing is your walking paths, right? So I'm going to go with the asphalt paths with lamps because this is we want to make sure this is nice and accessible. So the way I tend to do it is I run paths in a number of different locations. And I also like running paths up against the road like this. But I don't go too far because I want to maybe bring in a road at some point as well. Right, so that's the one. Let's get another one up here. Now, can we fit something in between here? Probably. Oh, we can. So that's excellent. That is great. So let's do this. Okay, and then we run some paths. Make sure you've got lots and lots of paths to work with. Okay, it's super important that you've got paths absolutely everywhere. You can go straight across. I like building bridges when we're going across these things, pedestrian kind of bridges. But let's just make sure we've got nice and lots of paths everywhere. I also like kind of making sure that we're running a straight path alongside the road. And to be honest, what I will do is I will trim that back, run this path alongside here. And what I'll do is I will tie that one in from that side, basically. Okay, so we'll kind of end up the path like that. So it's a little bit more square, right? So there we go. So let's go ahead and build those paths. This is also what you need to kind of get it constructed. Now, what you also need in this area, so what I'll also then do is the next thing is I'll add a little bit of a bridge across here, right? But I also want to make sure that we've got paths that run alongside the highway as well. So if we do maybe something like let's do this. Okay, and then let's do let's do that. Let's do this side. We want to make sure we can have a path on both sides. Try and get it fairly square, like so. Then we so let's get our path that runs alongside the highway. You want to have, I don't actually, you know what? You need to just be mindful that you may need to run the paths first. Okay. So if we do this on this side and we do that on that side, now if we do the bridge connection, it should be fine. And well, it's only got the one. I would have liked it to have another one there, but that's okay. I don't mind that too much. So let's go ahead and build those paths as well. And now we just want to make sure that we are actively tying this in here, tying that up there. You want to tie these together, but we also want to make sure that we, well, maybe what we do is we run a path up there and then tie this in here. Okay, so here you can, actually, let's just build these paths. So always make sure you're planning for direct connectivity to your train station and other public transport facilities. So now you can see we're in a position to start tying things up a little bit over here. So let's just make sure we are actively running this guy fairly straight. We could kind of run it around like that to kind of give a bit of a shape around the roundabout here. And then we can, of course, tie in these various locations. Similarly, we could run, we will be running up here and tying in like so. That's fine. And then we can tie this one in maybe directly like so. We will be coming across here and tying in over there. And similarly, we might just then be continuing our pathing like this and like that. But anyway, I like to make sure that our paths are not ending, right? So now what we could do is we'll just run a path alongside the road here, but we'll then also make sure to path that one in there and so on. So now we can still use these areas. So I do like doing a little bit of this. So what we're crossing everywhere. So something like that looks pretty cool. We will build that, and that's the starting point for our town, right? This is where people are going to start living. So what do we also need in this area? We need a lots and lots of other amenities as well. So let's tie in this one like so, that one like so. Get them all kind of tied in. Oh, I should stop with that. Okay, so now always get them nice and connected. So this is maybe a little bit less direct. I would have liked to run this a little bit more direct through here. But I guess it's reasonable. Now, you also need to bear in mind that you need room for waste management. So waste management is one of the pieces that you need to keep in all of these areas. With all of these paths, it should be okay. So let's make sure to leave ourselves a little bit of room for waste management. These are mods, but you can use some of these big guys. I would always recommend, I don't always do it, but I always recommend using using some of the large container storage areas. Okay. And then when you're bringing in a little bit of a road like this, actually, let's bring in a road. So we can probably do a little something like this, right? And I don't mind tying in a road. Hang on. We can do something a little cooler. So if we bring in a road like that, bring it in like this, it's a bit of a shape in there. And then actually we'll do a bit of that and tie it in like so, right? And then on this side, what can be quite cool is we can tie in one of those one-way roads in here as well. So let's do a little bit of this. Right, and a little bit of, maybe we'll give it a bit of bigger radius, something like that. So now we've got a bit of a right in, right out going over here. What we may need to do now is just move this path a little bit up there because it might not want to go in that specific area. But let's go ahead and get that built. Now, you do need these. Every now and again, you need a street like this so that you can tie in a bit of a connection for your waste management, right? So waste management maybe goes in there. We want to make sure that we've got sufficient room for the paths to cross. Always have sufficient room for the paths to cross, right? So enough room on that side, right? So that we can continue that one through there. And enough room on this side so that we can continue this path down there. Don't need a path there if you've already got a path on this side. Now, what we'll also need to do is we'll need to run this path down like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this one back to about there, and we'll make sure to do that. Get rid of this one. Come on. Oh man, what a pain. Okay, there we go. And now let's make sure to tie that one back in like so, and we go ahead and build that. So there we go. Paths in our first area. Now, this is step one. We want to make sure that we've got room for a few of these big guys. Ooh, so monument to party founding. Oh, interesting. So this is part of some of the new, I haven't even seen this. Statue of Liberty. I like it. Mostar Bridge. I've been there. That's pretty cool. So let's grab one of these new ones. So Eiffel Tower. Let's go monument to the party founding. Oh my, it's too big. We'll go with a standard Lenin, right? Lenin's big statue here. I like kind of have them at the edges here, but we need them. Maybe that area could actually be used for something a little bit better. We'll get Lenin to go in there. Lenin could have also gone on this side, actually. Let's get Lenin on this side, next to the roundabout. We will take it away from that one, and we will clear it off on this side as well, so that maybe we can fit in some other stuff in here. Now, other amenities that you would like to have here is sports, kindergartens, and a little bit of culture. So we could maybe grab a small kindergarten. Here you can see the kindergarten fits in nicely in this location, so that's going to be a pretty good move. The other thing that I would like to grab is maybe a little bit of cultural items. So I typically have like little small libraries and things like that as well. If they can fit, I try to squeeze them in. Yeah, so something like that. I try and make it 90 degrees with whatever I've got in here. So there we've got two nice buildings as part of our initial amenities. What you also would like to do, let's finish off, always finish off your road networks or your little paths to make sure that everybody has nice and direct access to everywhere. You know? Let's go and grab all of that, pay for this, pay for that. Okay, we also need sports in this area, and then there's some other amenities that we need to do as well. So let's quickly grab just a bit of sports. Typically, things like the indoor pool, a sports hall could work quite well. So maybe that's something that we have immediately across the road, and some other amenities that we'll also need. So again, laying out your first city is all about making sure that accessibility is good. So here we've got our shopping centers. We've got our first round of towers where people will be living. This will be accessible to public transport on this side and on that side. So initially we'll be using buses, but once our trains are up and running, we can use this. We've got plenty of room for expansion into other areas, and we're adding our first and initial amenities in here as well. Now, there's a lot of amenities that we need, so we're going to have to start looking at the rest of the amenities, which I will do in the next episode. We'll continue to finalize our amenities. We'll set up our first town into running, and then we'll start looking at, the utility side of things, which will be a separate episode by itself, planning out for the utilities. So for now, we're just planning out the town, the basic layout of the town, adding on our first area and our first amenities. I'll continue that in the next episode, and then we'll have our first section of town working together. We'll also then talk about things like how do we distribute our goods to this area so that these people are always quite nice and happy. Things like that. Guys, I'm going to try and keep these episodes to about 30 minutes each, and if we don't quite get to everything that we wanted to do, we will then continue in the next episode. But again, this has just been how we lay out our first town, right? How we lay out towns. Okay, thank you so much for this. I'll see you for joining me. Again, in the comments, please leave some comments as to what you would like us to do as well in this series. What do you want to see next? Things like that. What are the things you're struggling with and need a little bit of help with? I'm happy to support that as best I can with this series. So please do leave your comments. Please do contribute, and please share it if you know of other people who would benefit from this kind of content. As always, I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.